Welcome to the Neighbor's Table podcast. This is a podcast where we discuss the topic of the criminal justice system and the beauty that's happening amidst it, the brokenness, the stories, those who are engaging and bringing change. We're sitting at the table to be a part of this big conversation, and we hope that those who are listening would be joining in the conversation as well.
So, good morning, guys. Good morning. Like I said, I don't know what your guy, I heard somebody say something about protocol or whatever. My name is George. I did 17 years in the Department of Corrections. June 9th, I'll have been released for 2 months. I just got out. When I was a kid, when I was coming up, I grew up, I don't have the stories I've heard in prison break my heart. I don't have those stories. I grew up with a family that loved me. Nobody in my family has less than a 4-year degree. My brother's got an MBA, my sister's a nurse practitioner and a college professor. Like everybody is doing really well. I had connection issues. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. I didn't feel like I fit in with my family. I didn't feel like I fit in at school. So what did I do? I joined the Marine Corps. I was like, man, I was looking for something. Let me go find it in the Marine Corps. Now, mind you, my whole family is police officers and firefighters. My dad's a firefighter, my son's a cop. Missed the generation there, right here. So while I was in the Marines, because of that lack of connection, I was looking for something, right? And my looking for something resulted in me drinking all the time and me going out every single weekend and fighting with my buddies, right? Not really honorable. We talk about the Marine Corps and holding up that standard of honor. That's not what we were doing on the weekends. Well, you get in enough fights, things escalate. Well, I was involved in a fight in Irvine, California, and the guy that I was with shot somebody. When this happened, I got arrested, I went to jail, and I remember the officers waiving my rights. First time, I've never been in trouble before. But what they said to me was, anything you say is gonna be used against you. So my first response was like, well, what would you like to tell us? I'm like, did you just say anything I say is going to be used against me? Oh yeah. Well, then I don't want to say anything. So I went to jail for accessory to attempted murder. In that moment, I lost my whole entire life, right? In my mind. There was no coming back from that. I've never been in trouble before. I was a United States Marine. I was on a list for the New York City Fire Department. All this stuff was going on in my head, and I kind of just gave up on myself. The Marine Corps offered me an other than honorable discharge. I had felt, now I feel different. Now I probably would have just signed it. But at the time, I was innocent, right? I just got in a fight. I didn't shoot anybody. That wasn't my decision. And I actually took it to court-martial and I won. And the major who represented me, my attorney, was shocked. Like he literally pulled me out of my chair and was like, let's get out of here before they change their minds. So I got out and I ended up getting discharged from the Marine Corps with a general under honorable discharge because I was still pending serious civilian charges. Well, all that got knocked down to a felony, but like after the fact, and then after probation, they'd make it a misdemeanor. But at that point in time, from the trauma, the PTSD, the situation I put myself in, the lack of taking care of my mental health. I was a 22-year-old Marine. You could not tell me that I was hurt, that there was something wrong with me. I couldn't see it on me. I didn't believe it. Even now today, at 49 years old, I'm so old I forget how old I am. At 49 years old, I have a hard time believing that it was PTSD, right? That my mental health was shot. But if you look at my life on a map, I took a very hard right at about 22 years old. Very hard right. And I started selling drugs. I started riding motorcycles. I started making all kinds of bad decisions. This is in New York. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna move out to Arizona. And all I did was I took my addiction on the road with me. And I eventually got arrested out here multiple times. Like, you don't just go to prison. Don't get me wrong, there's a couple of people that just go to prison the first time because they do something real heavy. But if you're doing drugs, guns, stolen cars, that kind of stuff, you kind of have to do it a few times before you go to prison. You got to, in a lot of cases, you got to work pretty hard to get there. I know I did. So when I got to prison, I was just talking to the guys outside. I don't care if you're going to a 2-yard or if you're going to a 5-yard. All I knew was the stuff I seen on TV, all the stuff the guys told me in the county jail. And I was terrified. Absolutely terrified. So as soon as I hit a yard, matter of fact, I was at Alhambra. And they told me I was getting fast-tracked. This is the first time I heard this term, to Meadows. I was going to a 3-yard, but they were going to fast-track me. And I didn't know what the hell that meant. So we get out in the yard at Alhambra, and Alhambra, you guys familiar with Alhambra? It's a processing center. You're locked in a like, it's terrible for us, like you're in a box all day, and they're just trying to get you through and out of there as quick as they can. Well, when we go out on the yard, and I see a staff member out there, because staff knows what's going on, I said, hey man, what's fast track mean? And he explained it to me, they're just gonna take me off a 3-yard to a 2-yard pretty quick, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, as soon as I walked away, I got punched in the face for talking to staff. I was just like, okay. So that was the last time I talked to staff, from 2005 till about 2016, reasonably speaking. Before I got into recovery, I couldn't tell you the name of a single CO3, CO4, even like the CO2s on the yard. We just did not talk to staff. It's not because we don't want to or didn't want to. I know things have changed a little bit, but there's an absolute real threat of violence there, right? Real threat. So now I hit a yard, I don't want to get punched in the face again. So people start asking me, hey man, are you down for this? Are you down for that? And I had my hand in the air for everything, over that fear of getting punched in the face again and whatever else was going on. And I started participating in the violence, the running the stores, gambling, anything I was asked to do by other people that looked like me. I have a Puerto Rican kid, but all I hung out with was white people in prison. It wasn't because I'm a racist. It's because that's where I felt safe. That's where that prison environment that we created allowed me to feel safety. If I had a bunch of white dudes around me, I felt a lot safer. That's what it looked like for me. And I don't even know if that's the truth, right? But this is the kind of stuff that I used in my mind to justify that at the time. And I went through this process. I've been to prison 3 times. I did a 3.5, a 7, and my last one was a 10. And every single time I got in there, I was a part of all the disgusting activity that goes on there, the violence, and I want to be clear on something. When I talk about violence, I'm not talking about tough guy stuff. I'm not talking about me and a dude going in the bathroom and heads up. I'm talking about me, 2 or 3 other dudes going beating up one guy sometime while he's sleeping, right? Like that kind of disgusting stuff. That's what it looks like a lot of times. I just want to be clear, because I'm not glorifying anything. It's disgusting behavior. So as I moved through this process, I got to Cimarron. And Cimarron's a pretty dangerous yard. I don't know what it looks like now, but I know in 2016, 17, 18, it was a pretty live yard. And as soon as I got there, there were people there that I was trying to emulate. I just got a 10-year sentence. I had all these justifications in my mind. I didn't care about my life. I didn't care about going home. I didn't care about this. Well, this culminated in me getting my rights read to me twice, right? One for an assault, one for an attempted murder. And when I got my rights read to me for that attempted murder, 2 weeks prior to that, from the sounds that had happened in that room, from the violence that had happened in that room that I was a part of, I had nightmares, man. I had nightmares and I struggled with it. And I'd been a part of a whole bunch of other kind of violent stuff, but this one stuck with me. And it was eating at me, right? I'd hear it every night. It was in my mind, it was in my head. And thank God, when I got my rights read to me, I was so relieved that it was for attempted murder. Even though it's a serious charge, I was just so relieved that he was still alive. And I realized at that point, I'm like, man, I'm not this dude that I'm trying to be. I'm not this tough guy. Like, this is all a fraud. This is all a fake. I'm doing all of this stuff in my mind as some kind of fake survival, like for myself. Oh, I have to do it. It's what I got told to do. I got to put in work. I got to do this. I got to use all these justifications. But at that point in time, after I walked out of SSU or CIU, whoever read me my rights, they moved me over to a different yard, and I was like, man, I got to start making some changes. And I didn't make a big deal about it. I didn't say, hey, F off, I'm doing this, leave me alone. But I stopped hanging out with the guys as much. I stopped participating in violence. I didn't have my hand in the air all the time, or at all anymore. I did drugs, and this is the worst recovery plan ever, but I did drugs a little bit less, right? And that's a terrible recovery plan, but it worked for me in that moment. And I eventually got sober. I got sober in 2019. I hit Safford, a minimum yard there, and I'm like, I'm going to clean up. I'm on a minimum yard now. I'm safe. Even if something does happen, and this is my mindset, I'm not saying this is true, but I'm like, even if something does happen to me here, I'm not looking at anything more than a black eye, I'll be all right. So about a week later, I'm sleeping on my bed, 11 o'clock count, and an officer slams my bed with his clipboard, scares me out of my sleep. The yards I come from, we don't talk to staff. Staff doesn't really interact with us like that. startles me out of my sleep. Well, I still have that mindset where I don't talk to staff. So I look at my neighbor and I'm like, hey man, and my language, I'm not gonna clean anything up here, was, why these motherfuckers keep waking me up? And the officer spins around, he's like, cause you got a big fucking mouth. I'm like, I wasn't even talking to you, dude. And this escalated, and I end up in the yard office in handcuffs. And I'm like, this is great. I lasted a week on a 2-yard. You know, I plan on getting clean here. Well, when I went to disciplinary, there was a lady there, CO3 Bensel, and she had a conversation with me. I explained the interaction to her, and I pled guilty to everything. Every disciplinary I've ever had, I never cared about a ticket. Right? Tickets to me were, write the ticket. I'm in prison. Who cares? That was my mindset. I care now. But I told her, she's like, oh, this is what you plead not guilty to? I'm like, no, I said all that stuff. That's on me. She's like, oh, I don't get a lot of that. I said, well, just do what you do. And she's like, so she talked to the captain, Kirkland. He comes in here too, right? I heard. I saw him on the list. She talked to Kirkland, and him and her and Kirkland had a really long talk with me. And they gave me another chance to stay on that yard. They could have maxed me out on those tickets. They could have made them up to disorderly conduct and turned everything all up, and they could have very easily gotten rid of me. But they left it alone. I think they gave me like a C ticket for disrespecting staff and made me go work in the kitchen. Well, the kitchen's not necessarily a great job for us, right? For a lot of guys. Some guys like it, you get to go eat and stuff, but for those of us who had like little yard hustles or a little say-so on the yard, working in the kitchen was I was too cool for the kitchen, right? In my mind. So I went to go work in the kitchen, and one of the staff, and I'm pretty sure it's against policy, but he called me by my first name. Right after about working there for 2 weeks, and I was just like, why you call me George, dude? And he was like, that's what everybody else calls you, just getting your attention. It was just weird, you know, it tripped me out. Well, then he started having these conversations with me, and he's not telling me where he lives or any identifiable names or any other stuff, but he started telling me about, you know, how his kid acted out this morning, or how good it was to see his kids that night, or building a business with his wife, you know, like the steps they were taking to get that stuff done. And he just started having these really human conversations with me. And up until this point, like I said, I never talked to staff before. So now I'm in the kitchen, all my conversations have been inmate stuff, right? Violence, mail, store, bills, what this idiot's doing, paperwork, who's a rat, who's a child molester, who's this, who's that. This dude's talking to me about kids and family and building businesses and life. And it made me start reflecting. I'm like, man, I was a really, really good inmate. I had a whole locker full of store. I had 3 boxes of store at somebody else's house. I had a TV. I had TVs that I gave to my friends. I got tattoos. I don't have to pay for nothing. I got say-so on the yard. Like, if you want to be an inmate, I was killing the inmate game. But then when I looked at the human side of things that he was talking to me about, I was like, man, I'm a terrible human. I haven't seen my kid since he was in kindergarten. I haven't, the only time I talk to my mom is when I'm asking her for money at 40 years old. I'm sticking needles in my arm. I was literally standing in line to share a needle in prison. You guys haven't seen needles in prison. They are taped and glued and stuck together, and I am so lucky that I don't have HIV. It is insane. I did get Hep C, but Phoenix West, they treated me for it. So now, after everything I did, and I've probably shared a rig, or needle rig, whatever, no less than 100 times, and that's me just being honest. I see your eyes. I am so lucky that that didn't happen, right? And that DOC, even though it was through a private prison, treated me of that. And those nurses over there, they fought for me to be able to get that treatment and to have a second chance. And I think a lot of it had to do with the path that I was on, right? And it wasn't until that officer started talking to me about what life, because you can have informal conversations without telling your social security number, you know what I mean? So he would share those little tidbits with me, and it kind of just turned that light on and made me start thinking. I'm like, man, I want to be better. But I didn't know what better was. I've been in prison since 2005. From 2005 until 2024, I had 2 years on the streets, right? And that was 6 months here and a year and a half there. So it wasn't even like straight 2 years. So I had no idea what better meant. And then they had this program called the RSS program, Recovery Support Specialist program. And to me at the time, I was brand new to recovery, had no idea what recovery was. I wanted to go do that. let me go be an RSS. I'll go run 12-step programs. That's what I thought it was. But what it was 68 hours in training on like motivational interviewing, how to talk to people, just to ask questions. I don't have any answers for you, but let's have a real conversation. And in those moments, once I got trained on that, even though now looking back, it was a little piece of paper, I had 68 hours of training, big deal, but it gave me that little bit of confidence, right? I was like, man, I'm almost like a counselor now, which is completely not the case, but in my mind, I was like, I can go talk to people about this stuff. And once I started asking questions and showing a genuine interest in what these guys had going on, I could start to see, kind of like what happened with me with that officer, I could see the light going on. Hey, somebody wants to have a conversation, and even the guys that didn't, I had one dude come back 8 months later and say, hey man, I'm ready to talk. Let's start figuring out this reentry plan. And I got to work helping guys get ready. It's a program called Convergent Case Management. I was the first peer support that was involved with that. And just being a little bit of a part of that was awesome. But none of that would have happened if that staff on that yard didn't support that as well. And that was the staff that had to go open doors for us, right? Because that's kind of a pain in the butt. You got counts, you got this, you got that. Hey man, can you go open a door, 600 feet on the other side of the yard? Well, when you guys go open those doors, those are the experiences that get to happen with the programming, with whether it's AA, whether it's RSS, whether it's even coding, whatever that happens to look like. Because with that knowledge, with that finding purpose, even though we're in prison 6 months ago, that was the happiest and successful I've ever been, even on the streets. I woke up every day super happy. I got to help people, right? I got to be a part of change. I have a tablet full of emails. I tried for 15 years. I'd make plans with every single person who left to get dope back on the yard, right? To get phones in, to get all this stuff. Not one of those dudes followed through. Not one of them, I promise. I tried. I exhausted all options. Not one of those dudes followed through. But when I got to recovery and started talking to those guys, I had dudes emailing me a year and a half later, hey bro, all those goals we set, I achieved all of them. I got my CDL. I'm running my dad's business now. He just got married. I just seen it on Facebook yesterday. The support of that staff, especially, and I don't know if this is my perspective because I was so lost on the other yards and I was open to this when I hit Graham Unit, but the way Graham Unit treated us there, from Kim Daniels, who was the deputy warden, Miss Wild was the CO4, all the CO3s, and the kitchen staff. I know Todd Draper still works out there in the kitchen, and he was a huge part of my change. Just those little informal conversations are awesome. But there's a flip side to these informal conversations, right? There's the whole compromise thing, which everybody hears about. The Care Bears, the Hug-a-Thugs, all this other stuff, right? If I ever ask you for a pen, that's step one. That's step one. Because if you don't give me the pen, if you're just like, hey, get out of here, no big deal, I just asked for a pen. Oh, I didn't know I couldn't have that. It's almost no harm, no foul. But if you give me that pen, what's next? Maybe a chew or a smoke or, oh, you're down to do that? Well, maybe we can make a little bit of, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. I promise you, I was moved off of yards for asking for too much programming. That wasn't the actual reason, but that was a little bit of a reason behind it, which is okay. You know, things blow to a certain level, and that's what it is. But when people are asking you for personal stuff, I never ask for anything for me. I asked for the programming stuff to get doors open. Hey, can we do this? You know, I made a lot of noise as far as the programming stuff goes. But there's a thin line there. And I've seen it. I've seen it cross a bunch of times. It happens a lot. And I'd hate to see any of you listening to me trying to be nice and open and hear what people have to say and then get pulled too far the other way. That's not what I'm here to tell you to do. What I'm here to share from my experience is the more you can 100% do your job and be kind at the same time. 100%. Now there's going to be people that have different takes and different approaches and all that other stuff. That's okay too. But just be that person all the time. Be consistent with who you are. You know, it gets confusing. Not just for you guys, but for the guys in Orange too. It's a very human experience, right? It's an extremely human experience. Even coming here, I'm gonna lightweight brag a little bit. I've been out almost 2 months. I've already gotten paid $12,000 to come and do speaking engagements, right? To come talk to people, to come develop content, to kind of share my story, to help other people get on a better path, right? I do a thing called the 3 Bs, which is believe in yourself, because you want to make someone incarcerated uncomfortable. Ask them what the best thing about them is. And you will literally watch them struggle or laugh it off or not have an answer. Ask them what they're terrible at. I'll tell you, I'm a bad dad, I'm a dope fiend, I'm this, I'm that, whatever. But to talk about myself confidently, that will instantly make somebody uncomfortable. So I seen there's a big gap there. So I started a program with believing in yourself, then bettering yourself, because you can believe in yourself all you want until you have behaviors to back it up. Who cares, right? So we talk about identifying those behaviors and finally building your community. Who are you going to put around you? All right, if you look at the back of the room, I got my buddies there. Jeremy's been out 2.5 years longer than me. He's killing the game. Josh has never been in trouble in his life, but he believes in change, right? That's who I surround myself with. I don't surround myself with anything less than that. But coming here, the commander, the sergeant, they welcomed me here. I didn't ask for this opportunity. They asked me at a different event. I said, absolutely, man, let's do it. You know, I was super excited. And then I got my sheet. And my title on the sheet, you know what it was? Inmate speaker. I'm like, so I made a little joke, you know, and I talked to Sergeant yesterday. I was like, hey man, what's this inmate speaker thing? I don't really love that. By talking to inmates and these are guys with really good intentions, right? They want the best for you guys, most importantly, and they want us to come here and have a good experience. So even unaware, we can still label people, right? We can still see people the way they are. Even though I'm out, I'm wearing civilian clothes, I'm getting paid to do what I do, I got a job, this and that, I still get kind of seen as an inmate sometimes, and these are from like the people who believe in change. So try to be aware of that, right? Everybody here is human. And we laughed about it outside, right? We laughed about it the other day on the phone. Like there was no ill will there. There was no ill will, but I don't want to be an inmate anymore. I didn't want to be an inmate when I was there. I definitely don't want to be one now, but there's power in our stories. The department, big mission with the department, if I'm not mistaken, is promoting community safety, right? Is that the first thing that you guys are supposed to do? Promote safer communities? Well, if you can do this math a different way, let me know. Somebody gets incarcerated, they get, because I've been this dude, locked in a box, treated terribly, terrified ever coming. I was running a yard and terrified every time I stepped out of my cell. Terrified. But I was speaking for the white dudes. That dude, right? He gets out of prison, right? Hates staff, hates cops, because that's what we call staff, right? And now he's back on the streets. Or a guy that goes to prison, is treated with respect, on safer yards because staff did their job, right? That's a huge part. I've seen on yards with my own 2 eyes across multiple yards over multiple years, staff that will open doors for us, staff that will distract other staff while we commit violence, staff, I remember on Meadows unit, this is back in 2009, so everybody's probably retired, but we walked into Meadows and we'd go building to building, hey, can we handle something in here? No, until we found the officer that let us. Yeah, go ahead, man. Go in there and do the thing, and half hour later comes a stretcher. That kind of chaos, that kind of stuff that happens, you know, or that used to happen, is going to affect everybody's mental health. And then the animosity that might be between us and staff, don't get me wrong, there's professionalism. We have to stay on different sides of stuff, for sure. While we stay on the maintain boundaries, there can still be kindness, there can still be professionalism, there can still be people who are doing their job and promoting safety. And at the end of the day, the safer communities is what we're talking about. So part of that rehabilitation is learning to have those conversations, right? Learning how to talk to somebody about what's important in their life, what their values are. That officer that I spoke about, he no longer works for the department. He ended up opening his own business, and he's doing great. And he hit me up on Facebook, and he's seen the stuff I was doing, and he's like, man, that's unbelievable what you got going on. And because of, you know, policies and all this other stuff, the other staff I can't really talk to. You know, so I got to talk to Miss Daniels out at the Globe event, But him I got to talk to, and I got to thank him. And just that small little, it might even have seemed like a meaningless interaction of conversation in the kitchen, resulted, I help people literally every day. I am really, 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 really good at my job. Really good at my job. I get to do this every single day. And because of that interaction, I promise you they're safer communities. I promise you that not only, if you look at me, right, one person might not be a big deal, right? When I was on the streets, I can safely tell you, and it's embarrassing to say out loud, I was committing at least 10 felonies a day. At least 10 felonies a day. So if I'm committing 10 felonies a day for 365 days a year or until I finally get arrested, that's 3,650 people. I used to hear it a lot. Who cares about him? He'll be back. He'll be back anyway. Well, here's the thing. We don't just come back, right? I don't just magically get transported back into prison. In order for me to come back into prison, what do I have to do? Get caught doing what? Harming somebody else, right? I got to harm another community member. Maybe not physically. Maybe I steal a car. Maybe I break into a house. Maybe I do harm somebody physically. But I have to have an adverse effect on the community. I have to put my neighbors in danger, kids in danger, whatever else I got to do to come back to prison. Days of technical parole violations, they're over. They are absolutely over. They're more rehabilitative focused. I had a guy that I was praying they were going to violate his parole because I thought he was going to die. And they ended up sending him to MRC for some help, which is a different take on things, but it's still pretty nerve-wracking when it's your friends and it's people you care about and you see them. That fentanyl stuff is absolutely no joke. My main point in being here today, guys, is to congratulate you, first of all. You guys have an opportunity to seriously influence change. As much as it pains me to say it from my old mind state, we look up to you guys, right? You guys set an example for us. You guys are responsible for our safety. As a man, I don't like saying somebody else is responsible for my safety, but you guys are. And you guys have an opportunity to walk onto those yards and to be a part of that change. It's easy to go on there and just say screw it and not deal with anything and blah, 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 and all that stuff, just like it is for us. Right? But you're going to have opportunities, right? And these opportunities, these are men and women. I don't know if you guys are going, what yards you're going to, but these are parents, right? They got children out there. They got parents out there. They're going to have neighbors when they get out. I don't know what the statistic is, but like 98% of the people in prison are going back home. They're going to be back in the community. So if you're able to find out whatever your niche is, to be able to promote pro-social behaviors, to be able to model that kind of behavior to them, to be able to allow these people, while they're serving their sentences, to feel a little bit safer and to grow, it's an unbelievable opportunity. And don't get me wrong, not everybody's going to be receptive to that. I can tell you, I was part of a program. I bring dudes a pass. Hey man, we got to go do this. This is a mandatory thing, not from us, but from DOC. And they were furious. I'm not doing this, F this, F that, blah, blah, blah. Resistance. That resistance is based in fear. You know what we're scared of? That we can't change. That's terrifying. Hey, I'm going to do the rest of my life in prison because I can't change. And then you want to talk to me about change? I don't know how to change. That's the last thing I'm talking about because I have no idea. It's like calculus to me or whatever, algebra. I have no idea how to do this. So as you deal with that kind of resistance, just remember that's fear-based. Be extremely wary of like I said, the compromise stuff, guys. I can't stress that enough. I've seen really good staff fall prey to that. And it starts with a pen. All right, it starts literally with a pen. It's that simple. Nobody should be asking for anything personal. Whether it's a phone call, whether it's a letter, whether it's a pen, whether it's I've even seen messages get passed yard to yard accidentally. Oh, so-and-so said what's up. Well, the reason I said what's up is because I want him to know, hey, the money's coming. Or, hey, I know you're over there and we're coming. So like even that stuff that sounds super innocent and super easy, it's not. It's not. So just the professionalism part of it, we respect that. Even if you're a complete security-minded, this, that, whatever terminology you want to use for it. I know the terminology we use, which I'm not going to use in here because I'm completely outnumbered. But even if you're that person, right? We're going to respect that. we're absolutely going to respect that because we know what to expect from. I can still remember Ms. Martinez's name at Safford, and that's who she was. You better be on your bed account. You better, all this other stuff. Like, she did not play. And we gave her that respect because of that consistency. But if you're joking and doing this one day and then you want this the next day, that's where stuff can get a little bit hazy. I'd like to open this up to you guys for questions. And before we do that, just so you guys know, I don't care what you guys ask me. Right? I can tell you my truth. You know, what it looks like to me. It doesn't mean it's the actual truth, just from my perspective. So I'll do the best I can to be as clear as I can on that. You guys have any questions for me? Well, I'll start up here. I'll just go around. Cool.
So the choices that you made while you were locked up, you know, to engage in all the stuff that you engaged in, do you regret it?
Absolutely. I've made peace with it. And here's my thing, right? It's very easy for me to say, oh yeah, self-forgiveness, I forgive myself, right? Blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm good with it. In order for me to be good with the stuff that I did outside of prison and inside of prison means that I have to do this every day. I have to be the best version of me. I have to promote hope. I have to promote recovery. I have to promote change. I have to do stuff I necessarily don't want to do. This one I was really looking forward to, but there's a bunch of other stuff that I don't necessarily enjoy doing, but I do it anyway. And that's my way of making peace with that. And my mindset then was completely weak. I have a tattoo on my stomach that says white pride. And the reason I have that tattoo is not because I was a tough guy. You think about a white pride thing, oh yeah, I'm gonna get that because I'm proud to be white. No, that's not why I get it. I got it now every time I hit a yard, hey, this dude signed up for it, this is what he's gotta do. He's their property now. You know what I'm saying? So I absolutely 100% do regret that. I'm gonna go to him and then come over to you.
You're living out for a couple of months. Are there any culture shocks or things that are hard to adjust to?
Bro, so I got this iPhone 15. When I told you guys that I started making changes, right? It was on Graham Unit, and it was a guy named Jerry Chaffney. He owns a business called Freebird Auto. He got out, me and him started making those changes together. And I remember I just got my RSS. Remember that paper I told you gave me that little bit of confidence? I had just gotten that thing. And I'm sitting at a table in the chow hall, and I'm talking about the stuff I always talk about. Robbing and stealing and women and cars and blah, blah. And as soon as everybody else got up from the table, my buddy says to me, he goes, hey man, is that kind of stuff a recovery guy talks about? So what do you mean? He's like, you think you got any credibility if you're going to talk about doing better and then talk about this stuff in the chow hall? It's the first time anybody ever really checked me on that. It's the first time I ever even thought about that. I'm like, oh, damn, I got to change all that stuff. That's all I've been talking about for, 10, 12, 15 years, whatever, in prison chow halls. So that was my very first interaction. Me and him got really close after that, and we continued to work on each other. Well, he got out 2 years before me. Now he opened that business, that Freebird Auto, and he's helping people that have reentry challenges, credit challenges, that stuff, get into vehicles. I just bought my car off him a week ago. But the day he picked me up from prison, he handed me an iPhone 15 and gave me the keys to a different Kia. I was like, here, man, this is for you. Get up and get on your feet. And that's what success looks like getting out of prison. I'm going to tell you guys right now, and this is coming from an absolute place of humility. I worked extremely hard on myself for the last 4 years. I read a book a week. I worked as an RSS. I got out of bed in the morning and I helped people all day long. I planned for my reentry. I built a network I wrote probably 200 and something letters out to mentors and got like 4 people who responded, and they kind of helped me with the process. And then I went and worked. Part of my whole planning was to go work at Second Chance from my last year. I didn't even know at the time that you had to have 2 years left to be an RSS there. But they accepted me anyway with a year left, which was pretty cool. So I spent my last year surrounded by DES ladies and staff that's helping us prepare and developing classes for getting out. I was able to bring in 4 guest speakers into the prison after they got cleared to be a part of the classes. Jeremy came in. He was one of my first ones. He spoke on recovery, right, and substance use, because that's a big deal for us. I brought in a housing person. I brought in Maddie from the Inside Out Network, which is a reentry platform. And I brought in, who's there? I know there's a 4th one. Oh yeah, Colby. I brought in all these people. So now guys are starting to see, hey, so I had a pretty good solid support system when I got out. And here's the thing, like, I know myself, and this doesn't work for everybody, but when I was a drug addict, dope fiend, I spent all day, all night. I didn't care how much time I got in prison. trying to get high. And that's what I did all day, kind of like that guy who was walking down the street, sweating crazy to go get that little blue pill and didn't want any help. So I got to take some of those behaviors, because they're not all bad behaviors. My goals were shit. My goals were terrible. But now some of those behaviors, that tenacity, that drive, that, I guess, ambition, if that even translates, to normal life. I didn't live a boring life before. I'm not going to live a boring life now. All right, so I get up early every day. I work on myself. I go do these kind of speaking engagements as much as I can. I got out of prison April 9th, April 11th, I was speaking at ASU, right? And that's actually how I met Josh. Josh was there to film it. And I was so uncomfortable. And I didn't know, I know my audience, you guys know what 4 and 2 yards are, and 3 yards. The guys that are incarcerated, they know what they are. But when I spoke to this ASU class of criminologists, they had no idea what I was talking about. And Maddie, who's their professor, kind of had me dial it back a little bit, so I started explaining things from the ground up a little bit more. It was a lot less experience. And I just continued to do that, dude. When I got out, I just immersed myself in everything. And people who don't know me were telling me, hey man, slow down. Hey man, slow down. You don't have enough knowledge of me to get to tell me to slow down. My friends are like, hey man, you're doing a little bit too much, slow down. Then I'll think, then I'll start slowing down a little bit. But when you have a little 2-minute glimpse in your life, I don't really need your advice, So for me, it's been an absolute outstanding journey this time down. And the number one reason for that is because I had my network set up and I had my resources set up. I knew where to go, right? I literally got housing. I'm in my own apartment now because I knew where to go to get help with the housing. Right? I get out of a halfway house and I'm settled. I got my own apartment over on Thomas and 28th Street. I am so happy. I was doing dishes like 4 nights ago in my house. I got emotional. Because it's so, even before prison, I was locked up way before I got to the yard, but being aware of those resources, knowing that helps out there, man, it's a real game changer. And last time I got out of prison, I think I was using within probably a month, lying to my parole officer within 2 months, skipping UAs, and back in prison probably within 5 or 6 from my parole violation. There's been a lot of changes, both on the department's part and on the community partners, because there's a lot of help now to help smooth that process. Go ahead.
So when you got out, and even to this day, how do you resist the temptation of going back to the lifestyle you used to have?
I'm glad you asked me that, right? I have changed fundamentally. And don't get me wrong, my addiction is always going to be there, right? It's literally one bad decision away. I am scared to death of it in a healthy way. I'm mindful of it. I know it's there. I had to get up at 3:30 this morning to come here, right, to make sure I was on time. And I go to a 10:08 meeting on Sundays, right? I couldn't miss it last night, even though I wanted to. But I got to be mindful. I got to give my addiction that respect. But my values have changed so much. And something, I'm not asking this question in here, so nobody raise their hand. But something I ask in the groups I run, I'm like, hey, who in here values loyalty? And all the guys raise their hand. I'm like, okay, cool. Who in here's cheated on their old lady? And all the guys in there raise their hand. You can't have that. You can't say you value this and have that behavior, right? Your behaviors have to align with your values. If you want to walk in integrity. If loyalty's not a big value for you, that's cool. But you can't say I cheat on my old lady and I'm loyal. Doesn't make any sense. And it's a really good teaching point when I'm talking about values-aligned goal setting, right? Which is a big deal. For a lot of us, we've never talked about values before. So having those conversations, there's a lot of growth there. For me, my values have changed so much. Like that old lifestyle. When I think of that stuff, I used to feel excitement, right? It would get my adrenaline running, get my heart pumping, be exciting. I'd love to talk about it. Like I was dreading having to come in here and talk about what prison life used to look like for me, because I don't talk about that stuff anymore unless I use that word disgusting. You guys heard me use that, right? I make sure I use that all the time implicitly when I'm dealing with my peers, right? People that have been through or might go through stuff I've been through, because there's no glory in that. So I make sure to tell that story about the 3-on-1s and the 4-on-1s, because there's no courage in that. It's coward. So when I look back at that old lifestyle, I cringe, man. I cringe. I'm embarrassed by it. Like none of it's cool. None of it's funny. It's all all disgusting. Like my addiction, don't get me wrong, I have to manage that. I have to make sure I don't make a bad decision. I went to the lake yesterday with a good friend of mine, right? He still drinks and smokes. I told him, I was like, hey man, I'll drive. You got a designated driver, we'll go take the boat out. And we went to Canyon Lake Saturday. And once he starts drinking, he's like, oh man, I know this sucks for you because you can't get messed up. I said, no, dude, I love being sober, bro. Trust me, I'm good. Like, I get to go home tonight. Like, my life's great. Oh, no, I know it sucks for you being sober. Like, no, dude, it sucks for you being sober. I'm good where I'm at, you know? That doesn't mean I'm gonna be around people drinking all the time because that gets a little annoying, you know, but I'm completely happy where I'm at in my life. I do have to manage my addiction, but as far as a return to like criminal behavior and that lifestyle stuff and those kind of decisions, I literally can't imagine something that would drag me into that. That would put me back on that path just because I've done so much work. I know who I am now. I know what I stand for. I know what my values are. Like to go back to those behaviors outside of the addiction but to go back to the behaviors, I literally don't have any temptations. When I talk to my friends or see my friends on that, matter of fact, the guy who gave me my ink hit me up on Facebook the other day. Hey, call me. Nah, I'm good. You know, I'm not gonna do that, dude. I just have a desire to help now. And that's not me being corny or whatever, but that's literally just who I am now. And going back to those kind of behaviors, there's no temptation. But if it does come up, you know what I would do? I'd talk to that dude or one of my other friends or someone else who's been through some stuff that I've been through, or at least that I trust, that has my best interest in mind. I turn to them for some help. But I don't really see that coming. Thank you, though.
You touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to push on this because these guys will be hitting the yards here.
Absolutely. Tomorrow, right?
I believe very strongly, and I teach all my cadets about respect and professionalism in dealing with people.
Yep.
And even though we have a job to do, inmates are people, just like us. We're
Right.
really no different. And what I want to talk about is the interactions between staff and inmate. So you said you were in Cimarron back in 17 through there.
Yeah.
I got to Cimarron at 18, and I was there till 20. When we turned out a house sometimes, we would have inmates come out, and I would say, gentlemen, good morning. Please tuck your shirts in, put your IDs on your shirt.
Yeah.
They start doing it, I'd say thank you. Kind of common decency.
Absolutely.
Almost never would I get a response. I was a supervisor.
Yeah.
Almost never I get a response, and sometimes I get a pushback. Now that never changed my behavior because I don't do things for response of others. But
That's huge.
a lot of officers, their problem, and this is where I'm getting to my question is, a lot of officers would be disheartened by that. When they're being polite and they're showing courtesies and they get nothing in return, and so they stop that behavior. So my question to you is, do you feel it valuable that staff say good morning and good afternoon and say please and thank you and that sort of stuff? Are you more likely, from the perspective of when you were an inmate, are you more likely to comply when you have those sort of interactions with staff?
100%. And the way we treat you guys, right? And I'm going to say we in this instant, that's on us, right? If you start acting a certain way because of the way I'm acting, outside of safety shit, obviously, but if I'm just ignoring you or not saying good morning or doing this, well, then guess what? At some point, I'm controlling your actions, right? You're stopping a behavior or starting one because of the way I'm acting. But doing that stuff, saying good morning, saying please and thank you, I mean, we're not asking you to beg anybody. Just talk to us the way that you want to be talked to. And if someone ignores you, someone blows you off, someone says something disrespectful, by all means, this disrespect stuff, you guys got to do your job or whatever that looks like, on the that side of things. But the next day, hey, good morning. Right? That consistency that promotes safety for you guys. And don't forget, for the next shift that's coming in after you. Because you get me all wound up till 10 o'clock at night, and then Graves comes in, and I'm still kicking on my door because this dude's been messing with me for 8 hours. He walks into a situation, he doesn't, or she doesn't know what's going on because that officer just left the whole house, all wound up. But yeah, that little bit of respect, that little bit of just common decency. Hey, good morning. Hey, how are you? Doing that all the time, being that person, you can 100% do your job and be kind. It's very easy for me to get up every day as an inmate, or you guys to come in as an officer, go onto a prison yard and be rude and be disrespectful. Right? It'd be easy for either one of us. The hard stuff is maintaining that professionalism, maintaining that that courtesy. That's the hard stuff. 'Cause I promise you, man, we're a difficult population. The other side of that, I can say, sometimes you guys are a difficult population too. Right? It works two ways, because if you guys have a bad day and bring that to work, guess what? I'm still stuck with you. I don't get to leave and go deal with another correctional officer. You're the one in my building. Now you're having a bad day, so I'm screwed. You know, it's a two-sided coin. And that, like Sergeant said, that little bit of, hey, you come out of the building, hey, good morning, man. Mind tucking your shirt in? Probably going to get that shirt tucked in. Doing it a different way, you're going to get maybe the response you were looking for. You know, because there's some staff that might be looking for a different kind of response. But yeah, that to us, that's one of the most valuable things. It goes such a long way. Just the good mornings, how you doing? If you're giving directions, hey man, tuck in your shirt. No worries, man. That kind of stuff. Super good point, man. Thank you.
Do you feel that you've found your calling now that you're out and you've got your whole thing rolling, and where do you see it heading? And yeah,
bro, I 100%. And I used to call all this stuff hippie BS and all this other stuff, and it doesn't exist. And people talk about finding your purpose and all that other stuff. I 100% walk in my purpose from the time I get out of bed in the morning till the time I go to sleep at night. It sucks that I had to go through all the stuff that I had to put myself through, all the stuff I put myself through, and all the wreckage and victims and family and everyone else that was affected by my actions. If there was any other way for me to get to where I'm at right now, I would, and I could do that, I would. But that's not what it looks like. I'm here now. And because of all that stuff and all that wreckage and all that past, right, and the prison and the stuff that happened in prison and the stuff that made me go to prison, I get to wake up every day in my purpose, right? Literally, all I think about is this stuff. I've been thinking about coming here to talk to you guys for 2 months, and I've done 10 other speaking engagements in that time. Like from the time I get up in the morning till the time I go to bed at night, I'm either working in behavioral health, I'm talking to guys on the street, building a company that's based on behavioral health and transformation. It's all day, every day, and I have not worked since I got into this. Even one of the CO3s on the yard told me, she's like, man, you work all day. I'm like, man, I haven't worked since I started doing this. Like, this is literally what makes me happy. I get to be a part of change, right? My actions show it. If I could show you guys like what my tablet looked like for the last 3 years of just the guys with the gratitude and all the stuff they've been through. 100%, this is what I will be doing literally for the rest of my life. And if I can help, I always say if I can help one person, right, change their path, right, or be a part of that, then it was worth it. I can confidently say I've helped hundreds at this point, and I get to continue to do that. Not because I work any kind of magic, but they want to make the change, and I was able to help them. Hey, maybe they didn't know about this. Hey, there's this avenue here. One of my coolest stories, that guy that I told you guys about that got married yesterday, I seen on Facebook. My first interaction with that dude was I sold him heroin. Remember, I told you about Grand Unit? Well, when I first got there, my first day on the yard, I ran into a buddy and he threw me some heroin. I told him, I said, hey man, I'm not getting high anymore. But in my mind at the time, just because I wasn't getting high, that was good enough, but I could still go sell this heroin, right, and get my stuff, right? That's how lost I still was. I sold him heroin. By the time he left through my recovery group and through that CCM program, and to this day, we're still really good friends. And he's that guy a year and a half later who sent me that email talking about getting a CDL and working for his dad and doing all that other stuff. So yeah, the very long answer to your question is that I am without a doubt 100% in my purpose. And the cool thing is, everybody that knows me and everybody that's around me will tell you the same thing. It's not just me saying it. I have actionable behaviors that others can notice and observe as well. So it's really cool. You guys, you think you're in your purpose right now?
maybe I haven't started yet.
Awesome. I hope you find it, man. I wish that for every single person in this room. There's nothing more satisfying for me. It really is. It helps me, most importantly, be able to make peace with my past, and in this moment, be pretty freaking happy about where my life's at.
You guys just got information in about an hour and 17 minutes that it took me many, many years of building respect and rapport to get. This information you got, you're gonna go into the prisons, and there's people that have been around for years that don't know, don't understand, and even worse yet, don't want to know the impact of what you do and the effect, positive or negative, that it can have on these guys. You know, I read your why you want to become a correction officer. I want to make a difference. If
That's awesome.
he hasn't reinforced the fact that you can, in fact, make a difference, and you might not know, they might not be like, hey, great, thank you, you know, and, you know, want to just give you a knuckle bump, and, you know, it's not like that. But what matters is that you know you're doing the right thing. You're not going out there every day and being an asshat. You're doing your job, doing the right thing, and that's treating people like human beings. You know, said treat people like you want to be treated, the golden rule. I think we talked about this back on week 2 when we talked about the child and the warrior. You know, it's the platinum rule. Treat others like they want to be treated. And it goes a long way.
100%. And especially when you said there too about the people that don't want to know. There's going to be a bunch of that from us, from staff side, all that other stuff. Don't want to know, could care less, this, that, and the other. You'll see a ton of it. And the other thing is, the chances of us saying, thank you, hey man, you saved my life, you changed my life, you did this, you did that, it's pretty slim. Pretty slim. Sometimes we don't even realize it in that moment. I had no idea in that moment that those officers in that kitchen, to those little casual conversations, were putting me on a path that I can comfortably say to greatness. And the reason I say greatness is because my life is great. I haven't even been out of prison 2 months yet, and my life is phenomenal. I get to do what I love to do every single day. I walk in so much gratitude, I cried washing the dishes by myself in my house. Like, that's insane.
I cried when I watched it.
It's insane the perspective that I was able to gain because of those positive officer interactions, right? It really is. So just like you said, man, you're probably not going to get to thank you and oh man, I'm so glad you're here today, man. You really helped my life, officer. Thanks a lot. It's not because we don't want to say it. It's because maybe we don't know, and maybe we don't want to say it because there's other inmates around. So,
But, you know, I ran into guys years after the fact. I'd be like, you know, whether it be at Walmart or wherever, and they're just like, I want to say thanks, because they're not going to do it probably in front of other inmates, and like you said, they might not even know. But just know, keeping the human factor in what we do will change lives. And George, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. Congratulations on your sobriety, and continue what you're doing. And I'd like to give you a Commander's Coin of Excellence.
oh, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I want to. Woo! Man, if you guys would have told me something like this would ever happen in a million years, that's unbelievable, man. Super, super humbling. So much gratitude, man. So much gratitude. I wish you guys all the best of luck. You have an opportunity to go out there and change lives, right? Don't necessarily, every day you have that opportunity. You guys worked your butt off to get here. I heard you guys getting yelled at out there. I was in the Marine Corps, so I get it, you know. Doesn't mean it's any more fun. But you guys did the work, man. You guys now have that opportunity. Like he said, I didn't get to read your stuff, but you said you wanted to make a difference, right? If that was in your little paper that you wrote down, stick with that. Remember how you're making a difference. Ask yourself, and this is stuff that I do with my personal development stuff. If I say I want to make a difference, at the end of the day, I should be able to write down 2 or 3 things that made a difference that day. Right? Something I deal with the guys that are coming out of prison. Hey, who in here wants to be better? Oh, I do it. Hey, cool. What are you doing to be better? What'd you do today? Most of them don't have answers. So don't be that person without answers. Know what you're doing to make a difference. Know what you're doing to be better. If you have to, and I encourage this for everybody, I don't care if you've been incarcerated or not, write it down. This is what I'm doing today to be better. This is what I did today to be better. Because if you can't write it down, guess what? You didn't do it. You don't have that behavior. And it's very easy to get trapped in that cycle of average. They talk about COVID being the pandemic. The real pandemic is average. That's the real thing that's taking over the world. I get out of prison, iPhone 15 was easy compared to the culture shock that I got out there. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to do anything. I mean, it's insane. It trips me out. So go out there and make that difference, guys. Thank you so much for having me here today. I appreciate you guys.
And I just want to say it was really cool to see those who are running the training academy request to have George come in. I tip my hat to them. I give my respect, because that was beautiful to see these future correctional officers given the opportunity to learn from George and his story and his wisdom and his encouragement to them as they go into the system and hopefully be impactful and bring change within the lives of those who are incarcerated.